What is up, guys? Wrestling Premier is here. Okay, I like doing these because it's the only chance I have to cover the matches themselves rather than the storylines. This pay-per-view was certainly enjoyable to watch. It took me back to 2008 with the vibe it gave. And the fact that this was the only pay-per-view barring the Bash 2009 to feature the championship Scramble match, that's another reason. For how fun those matches were in a way, I don't get why they never brought it back. I assume it's because the only thing that matters is the final 5 minutes of the match. Maybe that's why. I personally believe that's the reason why they never brought it back, because, the pinfalls in the match were rendered useless, basically. Anyways, WWE in 2008, you can say what you want about that year. They went PG. That is annoying. A lot of changes went on throughout that year, but those damn pay-per-views, only one was outright bad. Throughout the year, the pay-per-views, there was always some fun matches that went on, and fun cards in general. Take, for example, One Night Stand 2008, SummerSlam 2008, WrestleMania 24, the Royal Rumble, Cyber Sunday, No Mercy, Armageddon. A lot of them, there was some fun matches on those cards. Obviously, there's some filler throughout the shows, but the big match is always usually delivered. Anyways, with that said, Unforgiven 2008 was held in the Quicken Loans Arena in Cleveland, Ohio on September 7th, 2008. The attendance for the show was 8,707, and the buy rate for the event was 211,000, which was slightly higher than 2007's. The theme song for the event was Rock Out by Motorhead. Okay, let's get into it. The first match was for the ECW Championship. Mark Henry defended the gold, or the silver, and a championship scramble match. The rules of this match were pretty simple. Let me explain them to you. It was like a tag turmoil match, except the superstars don't have to wait till one of the guys in the ring are eliminated. For example, 2 guys are in the ring, and after 5 minutes, a superstar comes out. Whoever scores a pinfall or submission becomes the interim champion, and after 20 minutes, whoever is the current champion at the time becomes the official champion. Matt Hardy and The Miz started things off. Both guys went through the feeling out process. Neither man outright dominated, although I'd say it was 60-40 Miz. The first big move came from The Miz when he hit the reality check. Unfortunately for him, Matt was too knowledgeable, and his ring prowess allowed him to slide to the outside. Then it was time for Guerrero. He got rid of The Miz before hitting the frog splash to become the current ECW champion. Each man hit their moves. They all looked good in and out there, and Miz at one point hit a double crossbody that nearly got him the W. Matt, though, bounced back and he had a side effect, and he was now the current champion. The fans showed where their loyalty lied. It was with Matt, obviously. And all of a sudden, Mark Henry, the champion, entered the match. The guys stopped fighting and strategized. They went after the champ, but the strategy was ineffective as he manhandled the boys. He had a world's strongest slam on Chavo to regain his title. Henry changed the entire complexion of the match. He slowed down the pace, he caught guys from midair, and it took a while for someone to fight back. And the guy that actually did fight back was the final entrant, Finlay. Hornswoggle provided a distraction, and this led to a shillelagh shot. Finlay hit the Celtic Cross on Matt Hardy to become champ. Unfortunately for him, he wouldn't be champion for long, as Hardy hit a twist of fate to become interim champion himself. Now, all he had to do was wait 3 minutes. Anyone that goes for a cover, he cancels the pinfall. He was on super defense. The match became back and forth. There was so much drama. Henry hits a splash. Finlay hits a Celtic Cross. And Hardy, he was hell-bent on seeing out the lead. It felt like the final minutes of a sports game. The team, they just want to get it done. They're working so damn hard to get that W, and that's exactly what Matt Hardy was doing. The fans were realizing it's time. There was 10 seconds left. The guys went for the cover. And then the time expired. Matt Hardy became champion. It was a really fun match. Those final minutes were so damn chaotic in a good way. The fans were totally into the match, and to top it all off, Matt Hardy finally wins another singles title. Backstage, Matt's celebrating with Jeff, and he was certainly rooting for his bro to capture the WWE title so it could be a Hardy sweep. Overall, a very enjoyable opener to the show. Everyone put in work to make it a fun match, and my favorite moments, well, whatever Matt Hardy was doing, the fans were so into him. Chavo, that frog splash was cool as hell. Mark Henry, he was this dominant champion that everyone wanted to stop, but they just couldn't. So Matt had to beat around the bush in order to beat him. The next match was for the World Tag Team Championships. Crime Time challenged Priceless for the gold. Now, looking back during the summer and fall of 2008, I have to say, Crime Time were at their peak in terms of overness. I don't know how they didn't win the title during that time period. This is a common fact. Crime Time, they were over at that time with John Cena and all that stuff. They should have won the title. Just go check out their run throughout 2008. I mean, if guys like Cade and Murdoch, no disrespect to the team, could get the gold, then why the hell can't Crime Time win it? Anyways, Rhodes was a bit reluctant to get in there with JTG. He was right in having those feelings, and in the beginning, it seemed like Rhodes and DiBiase were out of their element. Shad used his power and speed to stay ahead of DiBiase. Unfortunately for the duo, the ref got in the way, and this led to the heels taking the upper hand. Rhodes managed to get the crowd behind JTG, and Priceless isolated JTG's arm. They got some heat in, as you can see here, and Shad was just chomping at the bit to get the tag. He had to wait a while for that tag as Priceless took shortcuts in order to keep that advantage. Rhodes, though, made a crucial mistake of going up top to give way to Shad. He hit the hot tag sequence, clotheslines, knockdowns, and momentum was finally on Crime Time's side. Sure, Shad almost got pinned, but he quickly bounced back. He did a little trickery that unfortunately didn't benefit the team, though. Why? Well, because when JTG got Rhodes in the inside cradle, DiBiase quickly ran in there and flipped it upside down to help retain the titles. Right after the match, both teams brawled before this guy, I don't know if you know him, he's Manu, came out. He got rid of Crime Time. The commentary team were pretty confused because this guy was never seen before in a WWE ring. His family certainly was, but he himself wasn't. Decent tag. It wasn't amazing, but it wasn't bad either. The crowd were certainly into JTG and Shad, and like I said, they should have been champions. And yes, out of everyone from the 2000s, I think they're right up there. Number one for guys that should have won the tag titles. The next match was between Shawn Michaels and Chris Jericho in an unsanctioned match. Now, I think you guys are pretty familiar with this feud. It was a blood feud minus the blood. Well, kind of. Jericho did a lot of heinous things, and no, it wasn't basic heel 101 stuff, but some actions that showed he was a cruel, remorseless man. He injured Shawn's eye. He accidentally punched HBK's wife, and he refused to apologize. Shawn Michaels, meanwhile, was a forgiving man. But all of those things pushed him over the edge, and he'd rather slap Jericho's cheek than turn his. I already covered this feud in a previous video, but it's not on the channel right now. I say this a million times, but yes. It ain't on there at the moment. Whenever it is, it's not going to be 16 minutes. It's probably going to be like 30 because I left out a couple of things there I remember. Also, that's sign of the night for me. Right out of the gate, HBK dived down to Jericho. He threw him into the crowd, he bounced him around the environment, and he nearly cut Jericho's head off with a chair shot. But this was where Y2J found an opening. He took advantage of this and he brought out tables. The tables weren't used just yet, but Michaels found himself face first into the apron. So now Jericho's the clear aggressor. Michaels suffered and Jericho enjoyed just about every single moment. The fans were clearly on HBK's side and he made his comeback. A very different type of comeback. I mean, when was the last time HBK tried choking out someone? Never. The circumstances turned him to a monster. He almost hit a sweet chin music before realizing that that wasn't just enough. He was out to mentally scar, well, physically to scar Chris Jericho. The past trauma got to him and he wasn't thinking logically. This led to Jericho sending HBK's skull right into the steel chair and he began targeting that previously injured eye. But despite this, Michaels had too much fire in him to be put down, and when he did find himself locked in the walls, he brought out a fire extinguisher and used it on Jericho. He used that as a weapon. He had a suplex on the ramp, and realizing his buddy is getting his ass beat, Lance Cade ran in there to help. The disadvantage eventually was too much for Michaels, and Jericho slowed down the tempo and slowly began inflicting pain. Cade's holding on to him, Jericho's targeting the shoulder. The ref couldn't do anything about this, and it was Michaels who pulled himself out of this precarious situation. And from here was basically all HBK. He super kicked Lance Cade, blasted the hell out of Jericho with a chair to send him through that table, and then he swung the chair at Jericho, which I found quite unique. Like, he didn't hit a basic chair shot, and it also showed that Shawn enjoyed punishing Jericho. It wasn't like he was out to knock him down or knock him out to get the win. He was out to hurt him. Then to top it all off, Shawn Michaels climbed up to the top rope and hit an elbow on both men through the announce table. He seemed like he didn't want to do all of this stuff, yet he had to, because it's the only way things would be even, and the only way he would be satisfied. Jericho, with blood in his mouth, then found himself at the mercy, or lack thereof, of Shawn Michaels. He lashed the living hell out of Chris Jericho's back, and then he delivered some very rough shots with a belt, which led to the referee calling for the belt, giving HBK the victory. Michaels lost himself and went completely berserk, and despite the beating, he wasn't really that satisfied. He continued the assaults, and the referee had to once again pull him away before he himself received a sweet chin music. It felt like Michaels had just finally regretted his actions. He was somewhat conflicted by the looks of it. It was confusing, like you didn't know if he was regretting it, although it did seem like he was. His character during this match, I can't say anything bad about him. Like, he seemed like a legit man that was possessed by the devil or something. Like, what's up? That ain't the HBK of everyday life. That was someone else. Overall, this match was really tremendous. They told such a magnificent story. It was coherent. It made sense. It wasn't a wrestling match. It was a pure fight. I mean, the fact that HBK used the chair sideways, that's what sticks in my mind. The only thing that was lacking in this match was blood, obviously. It probably would have been even better than it was. And that's saying something. Like, this match was one of WWE's best matches of 2008, yet it could have been even better. Jericho got everything he had coming for him. Michaels was somewhat justified in giving Jericho that beating, and I loved it. Overall, this match, it could have been better with a little blood, but still, what we got, classic match. And if the feud ended here, it wouldn't have been such a big problem. Backstage, Priceless tried to brag to Orton about their victory, but he wasn't having it. The Viper put them in their place, and he believed that they were way better than what had just happened because they barely won that match. They won with an inside cradle. The next match was a championship scramble match for the WWE Championship. Okay, Triple H at this point was in mid-say lengthy babyface title run. I will cover it eventually because I really like it, and I believe Triple H, that was one of his best years as a babyface, although some of his matches with Kozlov and Khali weren't the best. Anyways, Jeff Hardy had a rocket strapped to his back, and he was out of this world. We'll scratch that, out of this universe. It seemed like it was only a matter of time before he'd win that title, but there was also doubt over whether or not he'd actually win it because of his past substance issues and problems and stuff like that. Okay, Hardy and Shelton Benjamin started things off. Those two were and are a reason why I enjoyed 08-09 SmackDown and why I look at it fondly. Both men were looking for the quick victory. They rolled each other up. They were looking for that cradle, the W. And the first big move was probably the buckle bomb from Shelton. He had a snap suplex, and this match was fairly even and grounded. And then it was time for the Brian Kendrick. This guy, he was awesome. I thought it was a shame that not much came out of this run, as he just showed how skilled he was. We all know he was good in the ring, but his character, that was different. That was something else. That's what should have got him that push. He showed just how much of an opportunist he was. He quickly brought the fight to Hardy, but then Jeff hit a sudden alley-oop to become the current WWE Champion. Jeff wasn't lenient in joining the fight, and Shelton managed to hit the pay dirt on him. Fortunately, though, he wasn't there to go for the cover. Why? Well, Kendrick from out of nowhere tosses him to the outside and hits the sliced bread on Jeff Hardy to become the current WWE Champion. I don't care what anyone says. He was champion. In my eyes, he was the WWE Champion. That's it. You can't take it away from him. He was at one point the WWE Champion. And it was time for MVP. Right out of the gate, he knocked down everyone in his way. Kendrick began playing defense, protecting himself, preventing pinfalls, and he was on quite a roll. And then it was time for Triple H. Clotheslines, rights, knees. The game was elusive, and right then he reclaimed his title. But then a little drama played out. Jeff hit a twist of fate on MVP to become the current champion, but Triple H then quickly bounced back by bouncing Kendrick with a pedigree. He took a slight breather, only to turn around and find Jeff Hardy became the interim champion once again. Both men fought one another, only to find themselves on the outside with a minute remaining. You see this picture and you're thinking maybe it's really Jeff's night, like who knows? Meanwhile in the ring, those three were killing each other. The crowd then got louder. Jeff hit a swanton on Shelton, but while he's laying there, Triple H from out of nowhere hits a pedigree with 9 seconds remaining. Jeff realizes what's up and tries to go for the cover, which I thought was quite confusing, but it was too late as the pinfall was completed before that time expired. Damn, was that dramatic. Jeff was beside himself, but he swallowed his pride and shook hands with Triple H, who he himself realized that he was pretty lucky. Hardy was 1 second away from pure ecstasy, and overall this match was loads of fun. It provided so much drama, and it showed that Hardy was clearly championship material. He only made the mistake of turning his back against the action, which I gotta mention right now was quite weird. Like, why didn't he break Triple H's pinfall? That's the most confusing thing. It made Jeff look quite dumb, in a way. Backstage, Shawn Michaels didn't feel a sense of closure at all with the thing with Chris Jericho. As a matter of fact, he said that he'd do it every day for the rest of his life if he could. He then promised that the worst for Chris Jericho has yet to come, and a little spoiler alert, the worst didn't come, unless you count the teeth thing. That did suck. Meanwhile, Eve Torres interviewed CM Punk when Randy Orton came in and called Punk a fluke. Punk believed Orton was a bitter ex-champion, and then all of a sudden, Priceless and Manu attacked. Kofi Kingston tried to come to Punk's aid, but he failed, and Orton scored a belter of a goal on CM Punk with that punt. He hit the meanest looking punt up to that point, probably. He wanted to show the young guys how to make an impact, and well, that was an impact. The commentary team realized the effects of Orton's punt and speculated about Punk's spot in the main event. The next match was for the WWE Divas Championship. Maurice challenged Michelle McCool for the title. Okay, so the bell rings, collar and elbow tie-up. They did a sequence there. Maurice launched Michelle into the barricade, but she bounced back with a clothesline from the top. In the ring, Maurice targeted the champion's knee, and it was a pretty effective tactic, but then Michelle tried doing the same. They went back and forth before Michelle hit a facebuster of sorts to retain the title. Now, honestly, this wasn't so bad. It was pretty consistent. I was shocked at some of the moves Michelle pulled out. I remember someone said she was stealing moves from the indies, and like her moves were quite different from the rest of the Divas' moves. That's what I'm trying to say. Whenever WWE talk about the women's evolution, they mention Trish and Lita, then the modern woman, like 2003 to 2006, then they forget about 07 to like 10. They always gloss them over. I don't get why, because there was some good Divas action. As you can see here, this match wasn't even that bad. It was decent. They don't mention that stuff, and I think it's a shame. Like, some of the Divas from that era are pretty underappreciated, so yeah, that's what I think. Mike Adamle then came out and informed everyone that if CM Punk isn't medically cleared to compete, then he'll find a replacement. Okay, the Big Show then came out for no real reason. He was out here to suggest himself as a replacement for the Raw main event, but the real reason why he was out here was because Vickie Guerrero purposely left him out of the championship scramble. Also, FYI, Big Show was a babyface. He suggested the fans let their voices be heard and vote. Then, Vickie came out. She shouted at Big Show for not following orders of not disrupting things before calling him a big dumb giant. Then the Druids, the Undertakers, came out with a casket, preparing to send Vickie right in there. Big Show was dancing. He was so ecstatic over what was going to transpire. And Vickie tried running away, but the Big Show was there to keep her in check. Just as the Undertaker entered the ring and approached her, Big Show from out of nowhere KOs the hell out of the Undertaker, turning heel for the 2008th time. I mean, seriously, Big Show. He's hot and he's cold. He's good and he's bad. He's in and he's out. He's black and he's white. You blink and all of a sudden, he turns. The Big Show, that's what he likes to do. He likes turning around. I don't get it. Big Show destroyed the Undertaker. He threw the casket away, and the attack culminated in a brutal KO and some elbows. Big Show even gave Vickie some free shots in. She slapped and spat on the dead man as the fans booed. So there it is. Big Show is basically like to Vickie, I'm yours. That's it. One thing I could say about this feud, though, was that Taker and Big Show, their matches weren't that bad. Backstage, the TNA cam caught William Regal trying to convince Mike Adamle to make him the replacement. He did promise to consider it, though. And the main event, CM Punk defend... Well, I don't think he is going to defend the title. So basically, the world title is defended in the championship scramble. The match itself was originally going to feature John Cena, but since he suffered an injury, it wasn't to be, and Rey Mysterio replaced him. So Batista and JBL start things off. These two are pretty physical right then. Batista was smart enough to go after the knee. He locked in a figure four. JBL threw Batista to the outside, and this would be his wrongdoing as Batista sent him right into the steel steps. And then it was time for Kane. The Animal brought the fight to the Big Red Monster, but since he was fresh and a bit bigger, he was the aggressor. The pace was pretty slow, and it was like a one move at a time thing until JBL got involved. The plot then thickened, and Kane became the interim champion. Then it was time for Rey Mysterio. Rey had some momentum by his side. He managed to get rid of Kane. JBL was getting bounced around the place, and Rey nearly hit a 619 on Kane, but he was there to duck and hit a clothesline. Batista and Rey hit a double team, and just when they were going to hit another splash, Rey instead opted to roll up Batista. JBL got involved. He dropped everyone. He had a follow-away slam on Rey, throwing him onto Batista. Kane received a clothesline, and then the countdown was on. The crowd was so damn ready to see CM Punk, but it wasn't he who came out. It was Chris Jericho. Kane was stunned. The commentary team were stunned, and he slowly walked down to the ring in pain. Look at the ass kicking he received. In the ring, Batista had a pretty cool sequence. He trucked the hell out of both Rey and Chris Jericho. He body slammed Kane and speared JBL before going for the cover. Unfortunately for him, JBL had his foot on the rope, and once again, Rey and Batista worked as a team, only to fight once again. Rey had the match won, but Batista sent him right out of there. The Animal began building momentum. Kane was trying to defend his lead, and Batista, well, he was hell-bent on winning the damn thing. And with 40 seconds left, Batista finally became champion. Unfortunately, though, about 30 seconds later, 29 to be exact, Rey tried hitting an aerial move when Chris Jericho covered Kane. Batista managed to hit a spinebuster, the alarm buzzed, and Batista, well, you know his exact reaction. I mean, if you watch WWE from 2005 to 2009, you know exactly how Batista reacted. I mean, there it is. There it is. And Chris Jericho stole it. He's the World Heavyweight Champion. Zero offense, yet the World Champion. He did a better version of Edge than Edge himself. From the worst night of his career, Y2J turned it into one of his best. A complete 180. Sure, he had the war wounds, but he also took away something from this night. The World Championship, whereas HBK, he basically accomplished nothing as that was an unsanctioned match, and from the interview previously, he said that he wasn't satisfied with just that. He kicked Jericho's ass, but he wasn't satisfied. So basically, Jericho was living the good life. This match, it was pretty slow. It wasn't exactly bad, but at some points it felt a bit off. I don't know if it was due to the crowd, the feeling, but some points, it wasn't that interesting. Nonetheless, it was decent. That's what I try to say. It was a bit lower than the previous matches, but still, there were some parts in the match that were pretty fun, like Rey and Batista, the dynamics, Kane. Yeah, there was some fun stuff there. Not a bad match, but some parts, ugh. And that's Unforgiven. Many people didn't like the fact that CM Punk, he relinquished the title in such an anticlimactic way, and that does make sense. I don't think it's cool to see a champion, especially a world champion, lose their title without losing it. It doesn't make sense. And this wasn't even really due to injury. They could have just had him go out there and retain the title and then lose it the next night or something if they were going to do with the HBK and Jericho feud. Overall, Unforgiven, a good-ass pay-per-view. It could have been even better than it was. It wasn't exactly an outright bad match. Some matches could have been better, but what we got was a pretty decent show, and yeah, That's what I'm trying to say. Jeff Hardy and Batista, well, they were so damn close to victory. They were only like 3 seconds away. And yeah, basically for them, well, heartbreak. Jericho and HBK's match was definitely my favorite of the night. And the story of the night, like, the story of Jericho getting his ass beat and yet coming out on top at the end of the night, I love that. Like, as annoying as CM Punk probably losing the title without losing it is, the Chris Jericho thing, like, it added to the story. That's what I'm trying to say. So yeah, what did you guys think of Unforgiven? Please comment down below. That's your first video. Make sure you hit a sweet chin music on the like button and perhaps the code breaker on the subscribe button. Peace. I'm out.